back from recess. We will start with the next item on our agenda, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
All right, next item on the agenda is our program review. Brian Koslowski from Wright Tech Center is here, so I will turn it over to Brian.
Good evening. Hopefully everybody can hear me just fine.
Yep, great, thank you.
Would you like for me to be able to present my screen?
I think you can you? I'll click share and see if, oops, that was me. Are you able to share your screen?
Yes, let me see here. Yes, I believe so. Host disabled participant screen sharing. So if you want to just present, I guess that's fine too. You want to share mine?
Well, I should be able to, hang on. Okay, try now.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Well, thank you and good evening, everybody. A little bit awkward yet, but we're starting to, we're real familiar with the hybrid a little bit now than what we were in March. So this is my 4th year at Wright Tech Center in Buffalo, and like all of us, we've experienced so much in the last year, and so I just kind of want to review some of these briefly. As we all know, the challenges that we are faced with, how are we going to ensure the student and staff safety, and then the development of alignment of our Wright Tech Center schedule with 8-member districts, and then how are we doing financially. So, of course, we all had the guidance from MDH and MDE, and all of these items were challenging for all of us. And when I get into the finances a little bit more, you'll see, with a little bit more of that. So just a little overview of our schedule. Thank goodness our principal, Sean Carson, and the leadership team, we were able to work with our member districts and the principals to provide us the information. And so these 2 screens just shows and highlights the complexity of our schedule in working with 8-member districts to be able to accomplish the hybrid. And we know that the hybrid isn't even close to being the desirable, and we want our students back as soon as we're able to, and we're heading in that direction. So we're glad that we were able to have the students in as a hybrid, but we're looking forward to in person. So when I talk to the items with the PPEs and the sanitizing of the district and all of the hand sanitizers and everything, a shout out to the Wright County Commissioners and all the dollars that they were able to provide our schools. And we really believe without that it would have been difficult. It was about $40,000 just for our small district to be able to reopen in the fall with everything that needed to be done. And then so our CRF dollars, $23,000, and Minnesota Cares, or the ESSER grant. And then the ESSER dollars, we didn't receive any of those as a cooperative district. So the big question always is the enrollment, and we all have experienced challenges in that. And so when we look at this screen here, it shows all of our classes that are available to us on the left, and then it shows in Delano which classes are taken by the students. And this year we have 47 students from Delano that are participating in our career and tech classes. Looks like our high one is actually our construction trades. And think about the challenges of building a home virtually. And with the hybrid, it's been challenging, but and we made good progress, and it was right up until the point in time where we had to shut down the 30th of November. We were just short of getting the rafter and the roof on, but things are progressing now, and the house is being roughed in for plumbing, and electrical will be next, and the shingles are on the house, or loaded on bundles on top of the house, and so we're going to be shingling now too. So the students have really gotten a great experience in reality as far as the construction industry in the climate of Minnesota and dealing with all those things. So if you ever have any question on any of the classes or courses or enrollment, please give me a holler. when we look at our all-member district and our usage and trends, there's access and usage, and this is a challenge to understand, really. And for some of you, this is the third or fourth time you've heard the presentation, and for our new board members, welcome, Jim and Jenny, to the Wright Tech Center with our appointees for our regular board member and our alternate. And there's just a lot of information to just try to be able to grasp. So when we talk about our access and usage, access is the sophomores and juniors from the previous year that are able to take courses as juniors and seniors, which is the usage. And you can see all of our member districts numbers, and then below that is the Delano usage, access and usage numbers. So with the trending, actually with 410 students that we have listed as the access from the ADM reports, that's the highest that it's been. And then when we look at the usage, which are actual juniors and seniors, so the blue line is the sophomores and juniors that can take the course as a junior and senior, and then the bottom line, the red line, is actual juniors and seniors in our courses this year, during that year at Wright Tech Center. And so when we take a look at the ALC, and I'll get into a little bit of the finances and the challenges with that too. When you look at our ALC numbers, this is where we're really struggling, because with our Tech Center classes, the revenue is set each year by the board members, and that's allocated across as a percentage based on the access and usage. So when we look at our enrollment for our 2021 ALC numbers, and this is where we really struggle with as far as the revenue. In January, we were at 95 students in comparison to what the other previous 3 years were. And so when we look at that, at what that translates to, if the enrollment were to stay as it's been on average for the rest of the year, we'd be deficit spending in the area of as far as a reduced revenue from our learning center, and about just under 122,000. So when we look at the finances, our main revenue sources for the Tech Center come from our allocation amount. And so when we see this 1.386 million, that is the amount of tuition that's billed back for our advanced career and tech classes. And then this next column of the bond, the 09 bond, that was for the 2010 building edition. And there'll be 3 more levies, and then that bond will be paid off. So for LTFM, that fortunately has been our saving grace with some of the facilities challenges that we've had. And then the CTE levy as well. So when you look at the numbers, Delano straight across, and when I look at what that means, move this over here. Then when I look at the Delano, it's the annual amount of 162,000 for those 4 items. And then our other sources of revenue comes from that ALC tuition, and that's based on the students that are in attendance from each of the member districts. And Wright Tech Center received 90% of that revenue, and then the districts received 10% for transportation. We also received the special ed aid from the state, and then transitional disabled for our 3 programs are billed back to the districts. And then summer school tuition, we're really concerned about this coming summer, and not knowing what the governor and the MDE are going to propose, with the extended day learning for our member district students. That could be, we're hoping that it'll still be that the students will lean on Wright Tech Center for those tuition, or for the credit recovery. Targeted services tuition, as the fiscal host, we receive 10%, and the districts receive 90%. And without targeted services this year, our revenue from targeted services is down about 30,000. And then Perkins, we're the fiscal host of the consortium. And then we also have 2 FCC licenses, and we rent space to Masico for the level 4 program at Cornerstones. And then Wright County Community Action, we lease 2 classroom spaces for our early childhood elementary students are able to work directly with them. So this page is for this year's, if you look at that bottom line, that 1920 assessments for FY21, the school year, those are our assessments, and so Delano that's where we acquired that, 7.59%, and so that's when we go back up to these. That's determined based on the bottom total, as far as what each of the districts are assessed, mainly for the tuition, and then long-term facility maintenance, it comes from the average of the previous 3 years. So now when I look at this next page, here's where we're already determining what the allocation amount or the assessment amount for the FY22 school year is. And so we'll be getting this information to your finance offices and your business managers, so for budgeting purposes for next year already. This yellow highlighted number, that number will be changing as of February 1. So the first number, at October 1, we had 47 students, and then that's the first half of the year. And then so at February 1 numbers, we'll take that number and then it'll average, and it'll be the average that'll determine what the assessment is. So right now it's 8.42%, because it's 47 students for each. And so if this number goes up or down, then the assessment number will change a little bit as well. We're really concerned, once again, that the enrollment for the tech center classes is going to change as of February 1. What doesn't change as far as the tuition that is received, because that 1.386 million is set as far as the amount that we receive for those tech center classes. What would change would be the percentage of the districts that is paying for that amount. And then when we look at our fund balance, we took quite a hit a year and a half ago when we did our exterior wall restoration project, and you all have heard about that. And then we're hit with the pandemic, and so we're very hopeful that, we really want to get that, of course, that fund balance. And so when we're watching this, tracking this green line, we're excited to see that it finally broke the plane and crossed back over that yellow line, and then we just really need to cross back over this red line once we get over into March. And it really all depends on, we're really hopeful now once we get back into in-person and the students are coming back to us, in the ALC for credit recovery. ALC students struggle in regular setting, and then when they're distance learning or hybrid, students just really struggle. And so we're there for the students, we're there for our member districts, and then we're hopefully too, with the increased enrollment, that it'll help us out financially. Just briefly, facilities, some updates. The interior projects, really the majority of that came from last March and through the spring and into the summer. We kept our custodians employed. Actually had some paraprofessionals, kept them employed by helping out with other areas. And the painting of the cosmetology actually took place from the time over December when we were absent again into distance learning. And then exterior sidewalk projects. Updates to the programs, and this is where I will really begin promoting our programs to our member districts and our school board members. And we do give tours. We try to give them after 2:30 in the afternoon when the students aren't around, just for the social distancing. It's easier to get into the classrooms. It's nice to get in the classrooms and see the students when they're working too, and so we can do that as well. When we do bring in outside groups or other folks to tour our facility, since last spring, we do it after hours, but so we're just trying to maintain all of our mitigation strategies and everything as well. I know I've went through this quite rapidly, and I would love to entertain any questions pertaining to our enrollment, our finances, facilities. I know it's been difficult with our maintaining that communication with our member districts, just in the fact that we meet the last Wednesday of each month, and then now since we are meeting also as a regional superintendent group on Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock too, and so looking forward to getting our superintendent's back in the building at some point in time. It's been working quite nicely at virtual capacity. Just need that interaction sometimes as well in person. So, questions from anybody here or at home, or welcome anything that you have. And I know it's a lot of information. Yes?
What do you think we could do to raise those numbers? I see some schools have really high numbers of kids participating. I think the trades are just, I mean, that's really where kids should be looking right now, right? How do we advertise this better? How do we get more kids into this program so that we see numbers that are higher?
Well, our principal is actually going to be presenting to your sophomores and juniors tomorrow in your auditorium. And so that's something that every December we've been able to come out to the member districts and present, and so that still happens. In the absence of tours, because we've always brought in the students to tour Wright Tech Center and go through the programs that they have an interest in, we've put together a video that we have made available to the counselors, and the counselors, I believe, have been presenting that information to the students. We would certainly give tours to anybody that is not totally understanding of the programs and the magnitude, and that's what's so difficult this time, because with the updates and everything that we've done from the auto tech program, and even with our law enforcement first responder program this year, a video and pictures, it's just really hard to see what it is that we have to offer. So I would still give personal tours if there were to be anybody that were just not really quite sure about what they want to do, or to learn a little bit more about us in person.
It'd be nice to get that video you made out to parents. You know, it's good for parents to influence their kids every now and then. And I don't know how we could do that, but
Our brochure too, that we just had newly printed, we've just done a bulk mailing. Those, I believe, will be going out to the 4,000 sophomores and juniors across our member districts here too within the next week, if they're not already in the mail, because we had those printed, and that was the electronic copy that I sent to our board members to review, and that was a newly updated.
I just got one today,
brochure.
Brian, so they have gone out.
Okay, super, I appreciate that. And so we're trying to, that marketing, we did that 2 years ago. We didn't send those out last year, but we did that 2 years ago, and we really feel that helps, because then that gives a little better description on each of the individual programs that we do have, but.
So it looks like that number at Delano has increased.
Mm-hmm.
Is that number 47, is that commensurate with what our district level size is? I mean, obviously Buffalo numbers are high, but they're a much bigger school district, same with Monticello, St. Michael, Albertville. Is 47 about right, or to Rachel's question, should it be higher?
Well, when I look at the average over the 21 years that we have data for is at 41. And so I look at the 20-year average of the students attending from Delano, and we're above average. Of course, we would always love to have more, but I really, it's nice to see that 47, because when you look back in time, of course, that first year might have been a bubble since it was just new, but then the next highest number was, when we go back to 2009, it was at 59. And so I think 47 is a good number. When we look at the trend of your enrollment for sophomores and juniors is increasing, it's nice to see that from 2018 at 29, 2019, 20 at 37, and now at 2021, 47. And so, I think it all depends on the students too, as far as what their interest level is, because we know each grade is so different, as far as it could be a higher populated gender, one over the other. And with our courses, we traditionally, I think they cater more to the males, but we do have females in auto tech, and the law enforcement first responder class is probably the one class that is a good mix, 50-50. Health science, of course, and cosmetology is on the female side, and so, I think 47 is a good number. But
I'm looking at your website. Is there a spot on there where you talk about what these professions would take in coming out of the program in terms of an hourly wage or anything like that? I don't see anything.
No, that's a great question. That's something that we could definitely add in a tab in there. There is data that is provided by DEED, Minnesota DEED, and we have access to that. That's a great question. That would be a great addition to our website.
I mean, I think you guys offer great stuff. It seems like these days you need a little bit of a sales pitch. Maybe Jim can help you with that, but
Right, just to let someone know that if they became a welder, they could make $80,000 a year.
Right.
You know, I mean, just, kids don't know that.
Right.
You know, maybe they do, but that's really what's gonna attract you to these professions.
And that's great feedback, and that's what I appreciate. So many times you work so closely with something, you need to, you know, you need to take a broader
my son,
look.
last year, as a sophomore, we have just little snippets of some of this stuff, right? Like metals and woods and stuff like that. It's probably his favorite class he's ever took, the metals. He learned to weld, he did all these things, and he's kind of more of a bookworm. And I mean, once these kids kind of get their hands on this stuff and then couple that with, what a welder can make on an annual basis, it's, maybe it might be another layer to add.
You know, I know with what we appreciate too at the member districts is that intro level to the career in tech, and then so what we consider our courses to be is the advanced career in tech. But that exposure is so important, regardless of whether or not they pursue that as a career or travel to Wright Tech Center for an advanced level. You know, it stimulates that interest, and it's you know, most of the skills that are learned are a life skill. You know, in any of the trade areas that you offer and provide too within their home districts.
Cool.
So, any other questions? Always a standing invitation for a tour, and looking forward to getting to know our board members a little bit better that'll be serving on Wright Tech, and have had a great support from Mr. Shane and our board members, Al and Amy, and thank you very much, and looking forward to working with Jim and Jenny and all of the board members. I always appreciate coming to share information, and it's a lot of information in a short period of time. And so if you ever have any questions, shoot me an email or give me a call or stop in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, well, we can move on. Then the next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. As usual, all of the items are linked within the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Depic motion.
Jenny can second.
Motion by Depa, second by Jenny. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Gierke,
Aye.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Seguin.
Aye. All right, consent agenda passes. The next item on the agenda is our resolution for acceptance of gifts. So I will go ahead and read that tonight. Whereas Zoller photography rebate, $1,099 for Delano Elementary. Target, $22 for Delano Elementary. Black Cloud, $166 for Delano Elementary. Black Cloud, $66 for Delano Intermediate School. Zoller photography rebate, $1,000 for Delano Intermediate School. Light of Christ, $7,500 for district students in need. Zoller photography rebate, $1,249 for Delano High School. Black Cloud, $666 for Delano High School. Softball Booster Club, $263.20 for uniforms. Dance Booster Club, $6,232 for booster paid coach. Drama Booster Club, $1,157 for booster paid coach. Drama Booster Club, $185 for the one at play. Fee for a student. City of Delano, $3,000 for summer rec. And Franklin Township, $2,000 for summer rec. As always, we thank all of these folks for generous contributions. It looks like we had an especially large one from Light of Christ Church, which I'd also like to call out specifically. So obviously we thank all of these individuals and organizations for their generosity. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Sue moves.
Amy, I'll second.
Motion by Sue, Amy by second. And if there's no discussion, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Segwin,
Aye.
Mr. Gierke.
Aye.
All right, that resolution passes. Next item on the agenda is our personnel items. It's fairly light this month. Everyone can reference it, it's attached in the agenda. So I have a motion to approve tonight's personnel items.
Jenny will make that motion.
Jim will second.
Motion by Jenny, second by Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Segwin, Mr. Gierke,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau.
I got it. Aye.
Jen's doing it twice.
I think I did it twice.
That's illegal.
I think you missed Roser.
Sue Rozier would be the one we're missing, yeah.
Okay, Ms. Roser,
Aye.
All right, personnel matters passes, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. School patrons are given the opportunity to address the school board regarding items on the agenda. Patrons asked to state their name and address for the record. The board appreciates feedback from the public in this forum. Board members will not comment on or discuss topics brought up by speakers at this time. Paul, I believe we have one that was submitted from last month that we had some technical difficulties. Do you want to help maybe summarize that one for tonight, or how do we want to proceed with making sure that one gets on the record?
Yeah, we tried to make a connection with, Wendy Towney was the parent that wanted to share, and we just, first of all, I just wanted to, I've been watching to see, we did send her the link to this meeting. It was kind of one of those where it was last meeting, like Lisa said, she was unable to get her audio working in that hybrid type model. But just know that, Wendy, we did send that information out to every single board member. It was basically giving a very detailed argument for bringing students back in person and showing data of where it would show why there's a strong argument of bringing students back in person, and the educational difficulties when students are not in school in their classrooms and learning is, to my understanding, the synopsis from my memory. I have to apologize, I don't have the documents in front of me, but I believe from my memory of reading through all of the documents, that was the point that she was trying to make. I wanted to make sure that we articulated that this evening in a public forum, and that she did wish to make that statement publicly, and we'll do a follow-up again with Wendy. It was a short notice to get the link out, but we'll make sure we do a follow-up with her as well, just to make sure that the board, that she knows that the board is fully informed, and that we did make it a public statement that her information is recorded too as well. And we are, to respond to that, we are working very hard to get students back in person. We just got to do it safely, and we got to do it carefully, so we make sure we don't go backwards for any way, shape, or form. So, but I did want to mention that, as far as Wendy did express an interest to make a public comment this evening.
Yeah, I remember that from last month, and I remember getting her written kind of summary of that as well. So thank you for the feedback, Wendy. We've all seen it. Again, apologize for the technical difficulties. But yes, like Matt says, I think we all have the same goal here, to get our kids back in school for sure. Okay, do you have any other submissions for public comment, I assume, Paul? Okay.
No, we do not.
Okay, then let's move on to administrative reports, starting with Superintendent Shane.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Madam Chair, student school board members. I'll be brief with my comments tonight, but I did want to share some important information with you just regarding a couple of different items, mainly in the area of how we're continuing to provide educational services in these most unusual school year, in fact, more than a school year. As far as our update, we are in our second week of our transition into a less restrictive model. As most everybody knows, we are in person K through 5, and we are in hybrid 6 through 12. It was a successful transition. I think that there's Greg and Joe can attest to this. There's a little bit higher level of energy in the schools, which is exciting to get more kids back in those schools, and teachers and other staff members engaging with those students and doing all the great things that they do to educate our students and to provide optimal learning experiences. We are going to review that data over for the foreseeable future just to see how we're performing. So far, so good with regards to any other cases. We've had a really good first week. Our numbers are very, very low, for as far as school-related situations. So we want to keep that up. We want to give ourselves a little bit more time to kind of review how things are going. So a minimum of 2 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer, and then we will begin the conversation of potentially making another transition into a less restrictive model. Eventually, we want to safely bring all of our students back in person and get ourselves back to a normal educational environment as much as possible. But that we want to be very careful, and I wanted to make sure that we do that very carefully so we don't run into a situation where we got to change into a more restrictive learning model. So that's the key name of the game to be able to do that. We have been able to, starting last week, vaccinate a number of staff members. It was a pilot program launched by the state a week ago today. We are in our second week, and by the end of our second week, we should be close to about 24 staff members that will be vaccinated. So the pilot program is starting. It's slow, it's sure, but we're trying to get as many staff members that are willing to get the vaccine vaccinated as soon as we can in a timely basis. So I'll be communicating out to staff members again this week with regards to the logistics of getting the second group of our employees vaccinated. So, and I also wanted to announce the governor did update, or he did do a public announcement of his what's called a Due North, is his educational plan for the state. And there's 7 major bullets that speak to his Due North piece. He wants to make sure that he's meeting the needs of students during and after this pandemic. He wants to ensure every student receives a world-class education. He wants to ensure every student learns in a safe and nurturing environment. He wants to ensure that every student learns in a classroom with caring and qualified teachers. He wants expanding access to opportunities for students of color and Indigenous students. He wants to expand opportunities for students in Greater Minnesota. And he wants funding for a 21st century education. So those are the 7 major points of the governor's education plan. I anticipate to be receiving a lot more detail, because I know that on the phone call this morning that I had that was embargoed until 2 o'clock this afternoon, they did share that there's subpoints to each of those major categories. So we'll be excited to take a look at that. And the key piece to it always is the funding. So tomorrow, I believe the governor is going to be laying out his budget for the next biennium. And we hope that obviously he's known as the education governor, so we'll see what he does with regards to meeting the 7 major points of his educational plan laid out for the state. And with that, I conclude my remarks for this evening. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Oh. Okay, thank you, Mr. Shane. Next on the agenda is our updates from our principals. It looks like tonight, Mr. Vio is up first from the intermediate school.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, board members, for allowing me to be here tonight and give you an update from the intermediate school. As Mr. Shane said, it is extremely exciting to have kids back in the building. We've been absent students since about, I think, November 30th, and there was life in the halls, and it was just extremely awesome to see. And I think I would reiterate that there was an awful lot of a pep in the step of our staff members and our students, and they were very, very excited to be back. As you are aware, we have the 6th grade back in a hybrid model, so they are following that AA distance learning BB day through the group B through the week. And we've had some schedule changes along with getting our kids back. We've also had some traffic changes out in our parking lot for drop-offs and pickups. To date, they seem to be running quite smoothly. The advantage for our traffic patterns within the parking lot is that now we don't have to go back and forth across those crosswalks within the parking lot at the intermediate school. So we feel like we're creating a much safer pathway for our students to get across Tiger Drive, as well as for our vehicle traffic. When we made our transition back, we added 12 students from distance learning back to in-person, but then we moved 5 students from in-person to distance learning. So we had a net of 7 students that are now back in the building from the distance learning model. Also, last Friday was the end of the semester. We will be working on report cards this week and printing them out early next week. I think we're considering printing them out and sending them out to parents this year for the first time in a while. Just because everything is so different this year and topsy-turvy, we thought perhaps a good old snail mail paper copy of the report card might be a good idea, maybe to just give some sense of normalcy back into some lives. So we're considering that. We'll probably look at doing that sometime next week. The following week, February 8th and 9th, will be our conferences at the intermediate school. We will be holding those virtually. And this week and next, our teachers will be reaching out particularly to our students who need the most support and kind of scheduling those conferences first, and then we'll open it up to other conferences that may need to take place. We are also just at the beginning stages, believe it or not, of considering scheduling for next year, because we're already in January and we got to start getting things set up for how things will transpire next August. So we're starting to have those conversations. Next, I want to say in about 2 weeks, we'll be starting to test our EL, our English language population, as well as some of our alternate testing students. And we will be testing in about mid-April with regards to the MCAs. We have not heard any information to suggest that they will be postponing the statewide testing this year. They are working full steam ahead that we are going to pull this off this year, regardless of what kind of teaching models are taking place around the state. So that is our plan, and we'll start to put things in place to make sure that will take place for us again in April. Also, just along some assessment notes, we are just concluding our winter FAST assessments, and so I've just got taken a quick preliminary look at some of the numbers. Our students in math, we had 82% of them were in the top 2 levels for FAST across all 3 grade levels. And we were, 86% in reading that were in the top 2 levels, which is the low risk and the college pathway. The interesting thing for math is that was our second highest performance in the last 4 years for the winter scoring, for the winter assessment. So that's kind of exciting, as well as the fall to winter growth. Our average growth numbers in each of the grade levels were either right at or even above what's been expected so far with the fast testing. So that's very, very encouraging. Our reading numbers, we had 86.7%. That was actually the number 3 in the last 4 years. And our growth was maybe not quite as high or in that range that the math was, but we still have very strong numbers for our growth rates from fall to winter so far. So pretty exciting, pretty encouraging. Even, those were typical growth scores, and anything in the last year everything in the last year has been atypical. So to show strong numbers like that in my world is pretty encouraging. So that about concludes my report for this evening. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
No questions for me.
Super. Thank you,
Anyone
Madam
else?
Chair.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is Mr. Voigt from the high school. I don't see him online, but I understand he's there in person.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's always a pleasure to speak with you on behalf of the high school. It's sort of fitting and timely that Mr. Kozlowski was here speaking about Wright Tech Center because we are in the midst going full throttle right now with registration. Obviously, due to the pandemic, much of our informational sessions have shifted to virtual. We've provided a variety of informational videos that students and families can reference. Students and families have had that information since January 11th, although it's starting to get real now that our actual registration documents have been handed out to or have been made available to our Team A students. Team B students will, of course, pick those up on Thursday and Friday when they're in person. I saw a lot of interested students perusing the registration documents, and so I expect that we'll start gathering more questions and things over the next couple of weeks. Registration actually occurs the week of February 8th. And so obviously we want to make sure that we are available to all of our students and families that have questions. To that end, our counselors and our administrative team will be available from 4 to 8 p.m. on February 8th. Students and families can drop in and see us, bring any sort of materials that they might have and get things figured out for their needs. And I want to just make a note that that was originally labeled on the school calendar as registration conferences. Due to the pandemic and a lot of the restrictions with in-person meetings and things like that, we have canceled those registration conferences. Again, the counselors and administrative team are available for drop-in questions if they do have those, of course following the guidelines for social distancing and mask wearing. Alternatively, though, we have actually designated April 26th as conferences in lieu of that date. So that'll give a chance for students, families, teachers to meet up and discuss progress during the fourth quarter, which without that date, we would not have had a conference night during fourth quarter. So conferences for the remainder of the year are February 22nd and April 26th. But back to conferences, I know that there were several questions for Mr. Kozlowski about Wright Tech Center and making things available and making information known. I do want to point out that all of our families have been sent an email kind of outlining the steps of the registration process. At some point in those steps, I believe it's step 2, there is a reference for families to watch the informational video that Wright Tech Center has available. There's also 2 locations on our guidance and counseling website where that informational video and course catalog and other reference materials for Wright Tech Center are available. We are, as Mr. Kozlowski said, bringing in our 10th graders tomorrow and Thursday to listen to a presentation by Mr. Carson, their principal, on all of the programs that are available. It is likely that in the near future, our usage of Wright Tech Center spaces will increase simply because one of the changes that we're making in preparation for next year is to actually shift our work contract, what we used to call work contract and they call on-the-job training, to Wright Tech Center. So historically, they've usually reserved about 10 spots for Delano in that program, and so we've not really taken advantage of those programs or that specific program, which we are likely to do moving forward. In terms of, or I should say, continuing registration, or once we get through registration, of course, our focus is going to shift toward graduation planning. So I just wanted to make clear that we're not forgetting about that, and our sites are still looking ahead to the future. Obviously, we don't have a lot of details yet. We're at least beginning to shift our focus in that direction. And I did want to provide an update on the site improvement plan. Seems every year, at least that I've been in the Delano school system, it's been the goal for Delano High School to have a 100% graduation rate. Obviously, we've just wrapped up semester 1, and distance learning, hybrid learning has really taken a toll on some of our students. And so we are going into overdrive through the rest of this year, working with our families and our students specifically on credit recovery, if that is, of course, a need. We have Mr. Boffman and Nancy Stellright, our guided study teacher, have created an after-school credit recovery program. And so our counselors and our assistant principals will be meeting with all of our students who are at risk for not graduating. We are going to meet with the parents and the students to develop a credit recovery plan. And part of that plan then might be to spend some time after school with Nancy in her room, working on whatever coursework they might have. That might be making up some stuff from first semester. It might be dedicating themselves to passing all of their semester 2 classes, or it might even be engaging in some of the online opportunities that we have to earn credits back. So that's going to be offered from Tuesdays on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. from basically February 2nd all the way through May 27th. We obviously want to support our kids in the best ways possible to get them a high school diploma. My last update for the evening then is just that, of course, activities for the winter season are in full swing. Competitions have started, of course, and I do just want to send a message of appreciation for all of our families who have been very understanding with all of the limitations to spectators and things like that. Appreciate your patience and just waiting for us to kind of navigate the latest guidance and to work out ticketing systems and pass systems and those sorts of things. We're very fortunate to offer activities and to have at least a limited number of spectators participate in those. So stay tuned, and we'll continue to adjust as we are allowed, and obviously hoping that we can successfully navigate the entire winter season with, I should say, as little hiccups as possible. Mr. Shane also mentioned the return to hybrid, as did Mr. Vio. We are very thankful for our return to hybrid last week. Excited that we can kick off semester 2 in hybrid, and we are very hopeful for a return to in-person learning at some point in the near future. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about Delano High School.
So not a question, but just a comment that I heard from one parent about you going door to door for a student of the month, and I just wanted to say I thought that was really awesome, kind of above and beyond, and I think that's really cool, and it really resonated with this particular student.
Thank you.
So,
it's nice to hear.
Really, really nice.
Do we have an idea of what mental health looks like in our high school right now? How our kids are doing?
I don't have any specific numbers or statistics to give you, and certainly not in comparison to normal years. Obviously, the fact that our students all of our students are at least hybrid, and many are distance, it's difficult to assess the volume relative to a normal situation. It certainly is an area of concern. The hybrid and distance learning is very isolating for students, so we're keeping an eye on that to the best of our ability. So it's something that we're very cognizant of and following up on to the best of our ability. One of the things that we've discovered, which I suppose is not a surprise, is that now that our kids are hybrid or distance, it's very hard to kind of reach out and make those connections. Obviously, it's easy when students are in the building to kind of notice some of the nonverbal cues that might tip us off to follow up and things like that. We have a much more difficult time doing that this year. So I would certainly, on that point, reiterate the importance of students and parents, even peers, friends, if you know of somebody who's struggling, to reach out.
Because we have resources, right, within the building for parents to reach out to,
Yep.
counselors that they can access either virtually or in person on their hybrid days.
Absolutely, yeah, and again, I don't know the numbers specifically, but I know our counselors do have regular sessions with specific individuals. We, of course, have our social worker, and more importantly, even if we're not able to directly provide the service, we have connections to services available through the county, so that's a nice little, connection there that we can provide and extend that level of support.
Great, thank you for the update, Mr. Boyd. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Mr. Hinker from the elementary school.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening and provide a few updates on how things have been going in the last month at the elementary school. So just to begin, I'll piggyback off of some of Mr. Shane's statements. On Tuesday, January 19th, we were fortunate enough to bring all of the elementary students back full-time in person. It's great that our school actually sounds like an elementary school again. I remember I was walking the halls early that morning and you could feel the energy in the building and hear the voices and the excitement. I think there was plenty of excitement from the students, but also being in the parent drop-off area, there was definitely a lot of excitement from the parents too to get the kids out of the car and get them back into the school building. So I think everyone's excited to have those little ones back into school. Mr. Shane also talked about the COVID activity with our students being all in person. The activity at the building seems to be really, really low. As far as what we see in the building, it's very low, and just in the community, it's very low as well. It seems more like the October time of the year where you hear about things just from time to time, maybe 1 or 2 cases a week. Nothing like we were at when we were in the heat of things in November, in December. The quarantines that students are going through are much less frequent. While they might be a little bit longer from time to time, we're just not transitioning nearly as many students from the in-person learning to the distance learning. It's just having to do with the transmission rate being so low in the community. And as far as staffing goes, we've not had any issues having to do with staff members or being short staff members or anything like that. So we're feeling like we're in a really good spot where we can continue to keep our students in person and keep moving forward. Last Friday marked the end of semester 1. The report cards are going to be posted in Skyward late next week, and then we're going to be facilitating our conferences on Monday and Tuesday of that second week in February, so it'd be February 8th and 9th. Those are all going to be virtual again, so our teachers are in the process of reaching out to their families, and they're hosting virtual conferences. Parents are signing up, so we'll be using those 2 nights to be meeting with as many families as possible. We're very fortunate. We usually have a tremendous turnout. The vast majority of our families attend those conferences because, as you all know, education is very important in the city of Delano. So that's always great. One of the things that I wanted to note was that we are going to be rolling out our new standards-based report card with this first grading period. So over the last few months, each of my weekly updates, I've been putting in some snippets or some tidbits about our new report card. There's going to be a more formal explanation and letter going out to our families at the end of this week, just to explain the rationale and some tips and advice that some of our families can follow to help them read that report card. Last week, we surveyed the families. We had a running list of all of the families that had transitioned either to homeschooling or they went to one of the private schools in the town. So we had reached out to all of those families and trying to gauge their interest in how many of those students were going to be coming back. The vast majority are definitely very excited about Delano, and I'd say of the ones that we have surveyed, the majority of them are indicating that they want to come back. And those that are still on the fence are just waiting to see what the status of COVID will be in the spring. I think everyone's looking for a school year that is free of some of these things that we're dealing with, whether it's the mask wearing, the social distancing. But one of the things I think that's impacting families is when we're having to switch models. And I think people are waiting for just a consistent year where they don't have to worry about students being home one week and then back in school the next week. So we'll continue to keep a close eye on that. Another piece that we're looking forward to in the next couple months, trying to facilitate a kindergarten roundup. Typically, we would invite all of those families in for an exciting evening with our kindergarten students, trying to get a feel for what the kindergarten life is going to be. Well, that's not going to be an option for us this year. So our teachers are working on a creative virtual option where they're going to put together some videos for little clips of themselves in different spots around the school. So not only are they going to be introducing the building and some of the highlights of the school, but then we'll provide some information in that as well for our families. I think an added benefit of that is not only will that be useful for this year's kindergarten roundup, but then we can use that with some of our families moving forward. So if there are families that are interested in looking at Delano Elementary, they'd be able to see some of that footage in that video that we're going to put together. Wednesdays, our staff have been working on preparing those report cards on those Wednesday mornings that we've had. But moving forward, our staff are looking to engage in some of the professional development opportunities that we missed out on at the early part of the school year. So we'll be hosting some sessions for for the staff members that don't have students at home and in person. And then I guess the last piece that we have is just an announcement. February always kicks off the beginning of the I Love to Read month, which is a big event for our elementary school students. So we have many of those things will remain the same as they have historically, but one of the big pieces that will be different is we usually have at the end of I Love to Read month, we have a carnival at the end. So we're going to be making some modifications and adjustments to that, where we're still going to host an event in the gym, but we just have to be strategic, and there'll be one class at a time. So students will still be able to go celebrate their love of reading, but we're just going to do it in a little bit different way, so that way all those kids at the end can go back safely to their classrooms. So I guess that concludes my updates for this evening. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Oh, it's a great update, Greg. Thank you. I hope that we're able to bring in a couple kids to the February school board meeting. It's always my favorite meeting of the year when they come in and read to us for I Love to Read month. So I know it'll be challenging, but
yeah,
it'd be nice if we could do a couple of them.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Hinker? All right, then we'll move on. The next person on our agenda is Mary Reeder, Business Manager.
Just a real quick update. Still working on the 5-year projection model, looking at next year's budget. One of the things that does affect the further out years is the enrollment for the next year. And as you heard from Mr. Hinker, the principals are reaching out to all of the families that opted to do either homeschooling, non-public, or one of the public online options, just to gauge the interest of coming back to Delano. And just from me personally meeting with some of the homeschool families when they were turning in paperwork, a lot of them were it was because of the uncertain year this year that they were opting to go that route. So we're budgeting that most everybody is going to come back. And that does make things look better in the further out years. One of the things that at the legislative level is that there is a bill out there that districts would be held harmless. They would be paid at the higher ADM of either what it was in the 1920 school year or what it is this year. So for us, they would be looking at what we had for student count last year, which is about 65 kids more than where we're at this year. And even where we're at this year, we're down 53 from what I had been originally budgeting. So either way, that would be a benefit for Delano, so we'll wait and see. But that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions? Okay, then next we'll hear from Diane Johnson, our Community Education Director. Hi, Diane.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on what we have going on in community ed. ECFE has a lot of new things that they have planned now for winter and spring. We are offering a monthly take-home subscription bag to different age ranges. So if parents are hesitant about coming to classes in person, they can register for and get a bag of activities to take home and do at home with their child. And that includes art projects with all the supplies incorporated. It has toys, it has books, and various other activities. Winter classes started today. Our winter session is going to be a relatively short session. It'll be 6 weeks long, and then we've lengthened our spring session to 9 weeks. We have started once a month Saturday morning special events during the winter. Our January one kind of fell flat. It was a sledding party with bad snow conditions that day. So the people who were registered did not attend. The next two, February 13th and March 13th, we've got events coming up, a cookie decorating party and a family snowman building contest. So obviously we need the weather to cooperate with that snowman building contest as well. We've added a ones and twos class on Thursday mornings in addition to our Monday class due to demand for that age range. We have on Wednesdays, we've added 2 new classes. One is an early childhood music class. The other is a messy art class. Those are both open for registration at this point with space remaining. So if anyone is interested, we encourage them to get in touch with us soon. We've added a Monday night open gym, and we'll watch attendance on that and see if we continue to offer that or not. Our Friday morning open gym has been very popular, so we decided to add a Monday evening option. And our Coffee Connection parent support group is continuing at this point. A little bit of a misnomer now, and that if people want coffee, they can bring their own. We are not providing coffee right now, thanks to COVID. So, preschool is, we're working on preparing for next year with, we have to set our fees and everything and get ready to open registration for next year, hoping that all can be a normal format next year. And we are also excited that our second step, the social emotional learning curriculum that the district has purchased with some of the CARES funding, that curriculum has arrived. Mr. Vio brought it over to our building, so we're excited to dig into that, do the staff training that we need to, and implement that in our classrooms. Early childhood screening kind of happens behind the scenes a lot. That has been going on. We were fortunate that in August, the state allowed us to resume doing screening in person. We've completed 10 days so far. We have 6 more to go. We do offer 4 Saturdays during the school year for working families that aren't able to take time off of work. They can come and do their screening on a Saturday. Tiger Kids Club has been very busy since everybody went to hybrid and distance learning, doing the emergency childcare during the school day. And so we were happy to send the kids back to the elementary. It's giving Becca and Sarah Stone an opportunity to work on planning our summer program because we've got to open registration for summer here before too long as well. In the youth enrichment area, we're continuing to plan classes, trying to move as much as we can back to in-person classes because we've had relatively low response for the take-home kits and the virtual classes. I think kids are kind of, tired of that and they're ready to be back in person. We did have a babysitting training class on last Friday with 11 kids present. So JO volleyball, which got interrupted, of course, by the pause on recreation programs. They did their last tryout, and the 18U and 16U programs will actually start their practices this week. There are 3 teams. And then there are 7 teams of the younger age levels, and they will have staggered starts for their season, ranging any place from February through April. The Orange Crush Robotics team is going to start practicing 3 days a week, starting this week. So they're excited to be back. Our pickleball program, which also went on pause, has resumed now, so that keeps adults happy. You're probably well aware that we were able to reopen the pool on January 4th to limited activities, and so lap swim has been going strong. We're going to start swimming lessons in a couple of weeks, and they're going to be very, very different from how we traditionally run swimming lessons. All of the preschool classes in levels 1, 2, and 3 will require a parent in the water with the student. We're going to pause aquatots and tadpoles in level 6 classes at this point, just because of our capacity limitations. We can only hold 3 classes at a time because we have to keep people spaced 9 feet apart. And so that gives us a practical limit of 5 students per class and 15 students in the pool at a time. And we're going to be giving priority to those families who were registered last spring, and we had to cancel everything, and try to accommodate them first. And last but not least, the Activity Center. We were allowed to reopen on Saturday, December 19th. With capacity limitations per the governor's executive order. A major change, of course, is that people have to wear masks at all times, including when they are working out. Before, they could take their mask off when they were working out or on the basketball court or whatever, and that is not allowed now. All the youth sports associations have resumed. We are busy preparing for our initial tournaments that all of these organizations are holding. Basketball has their first tournament coming up this coming weekend, and another tournament on February 6th. Youth wrestling has 2 dual meets planned in February. Velocity will host a couple of swim tournaments in February as well. All of these organizations have COVID-19 plans in place. They've got to follow all of the state guidance. Everything is reviewed to make sure that we're doing everything per state guidance and keeping everybody safe. We continue to use the Sign Up Genius for our members to sign up for their workout times at the TAC, and that's working well. We'll continue that. The senior population especially appreciates being able to see how many people will be there, so they can opt to choose a quieter time to come and work out if they like. And we have early morning lap swim has been going very well. We have now added 1 evening per week for evening lap swim, and people have been requesting that. There have been people who have been driving to Watertown for that, and so our members are happy to see that come online. And that is a good summary of what we have going on, plus preparing for next school year and summer. Are there any questions?
No. Thank you, Diane. Next, we will hear from John and Bridget, our student school board representatives. Hi, guys.
Hi. So I'm going to be in school this week. So Thursday or Friday, I'm gonna just spend some time to go to a couple of different classrooms just to talk to some kids, which is what we normally would be doing, but we haven't been doing it so far this year. So I'm excited to hear some thoughts of what's going on in 7th and 8th grade. And we might hand out a few surveys. And we're also really excited for this semester because things are already starting to look up. Teachers are way more excited to be in school now that there are kids in the classroom. So we're already noticing that everybody's just more excited, even students, because now students are going in 2 days a week. So there's more motivation to get things done for those 2 days that we are going in. So it's been really good so far.
Yeah, kind of bouncing off of what Bridget said, things are really looking up. I'm definitely really excited to get back in person. Unfortunately, my brother was quarantined, so I'm quarantined. So I got that one day in last week, but hopefully next week I'll be able to get back in. Looking forward to it. We've also been talking with some of the principals for the intermediate building and elementary building, and we're going to be doing some talking and discussing with them and some of the students there too, I think.
That's great. I'm sure you guys are looking forward to being able to get back in and actually have some face-to-face conversations with your peers.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone have any questions for John or Bridget? Okay, then let's move on to our board reports portion of the agenda. The first board report on the agenda tonight is Masiko.
Yes, I attended Masiko. It was a pretty standard meeting. Not a lot of action that we took. However, I just want to point out that there was two retirements announced, two very long-term tenured employees. Marcia Dischinger, who is the finance specialist, and then Becky Nelson, who is the payroll specialist, have literally been with the co-op for decades. So both of those employees have announced their retirement. And so we'll be doing some reallocating of labor, if you will, and evaluating those positions and making some changes when they're backfilled. So everything else is linked if you would like to take a peek.
Super, thank you, Amy. Next on the agenda is the Wright Tech Center.
So I attended the meeting. It was first meeting, a lot of introductions. It was nice to hear from Brian tonight already. The big takeaway from my meeting is they're low on attendance, and of course that's due to COVID. So they're hoping those attendance numbers can come back up, and you know, we got to watch their nice virtual tour video that they put together, and it looks nice. So they're just hoping that can get circulated, and according to Mr. Voigt, that's in many positions where parents and students can see this video. So that's all I got for now.
Super. Okay, thanks. There are no questions for Jim, then we can move on to the next one, which is professional development.
Yes, I attended for Sue, and it was a good meeting. You know, in short summary, everyone is working hard to get back on track with the kids coming back and changing models. Going well, but lots and lots of work and very busy.
I can imagine. All right, then the next item is the District Advisory Council.
That is also me. So we did go through the World's Best Workforce Report. So Joe presented that to us, which was wonderful. And then, you know, similar to professional development, you know, there are changes in curriculum, but really the focus has been on, you know, each model that we're in and ensuring that we're providing everything we can, you know, in terms of education for our kids and things like that. So work that needs to be done against the curriculums and the standards, but the focus right now, again, is getting kids back in the classroom and moving forward.
Great. And then we have Schools for Equity in Education. I believe Rachel is going to speak to that one.
That is me. So C had its regular meeting. They had Senator Chamberlain and Representative Ruth Richardson from Mendota Heights. Representative Richardson discussed her priorities regarding the achievement gap and disproportionate rates of expulsion for students of color and students with disabilities. She discussed focusing on educational disparities and discipline disparities this year across the state, and discussed prioritizing reading milestones and diversification of our teaching workforce. Senator Chamberlain started out by warning us that the legislative process is going to be hard and slow this year. His top three priorities were getting the kids in school, literacy through the Letters Professional Development Bill, which I'm excited about because it's my bill, and then school choice and accountability measures. They're waiting on their February 4th report to get a better grasp of what the budget is going to look like this year. And just some background, Senator Chamberlain is the Education Finance and Policy Chair, and Representative Richardson is the Education Policy Chair for the House.
Okay, any questions for Rachel? If not, then we can move on to our Safe Schools report.
And Safe Schools was me again. We met about a month ago. We said goodbye to County Attorney Tom Kelly, who retired, and Charlie Burrell, who didn't run for another term as commissioner. We took a look at the potential roundabout and pedestrian rapid flashing beacon that could go in on Tiger Drive and County 30. And then one of the bigger concerns countywide is the increase in child abuse, domestic abuse, and drug issues right now. COVID's hitting hard, and they're seeing an uptick in all areas, so mental health needs are their high priority. Reaching out to your neighbors just to check in and say hi, seeing if you can help, goes a long way to battling that loneliness that we're seeing countywide.
All right, and then the last committee update we have tonight is DASA, Delano Area Sports Association. I believe that's you, Jim?
Amy and I both attended that meeting. It was Amy's farewell. I think they'll all miss her, it seems like. They really like her on the board. But, you know, they have all the financials are in the minutes posted. Big takeaways, they're refinancing to save some money, switching banks, a new lease, and also a new cooling unit that they need to put outside the building. And I think Matt's well aware of all these issues, so. All in all, good meeting. Introductions were made, and yeah, it was supposed to be 2 hours. It was an hour, so I think they got through everything really quick.
It sounds like it's an anomaly for that group, from what I understand, so that's good. Good. All right, that concludes our board reports for the evening, and we'll move on to old business. Starting with, we need to approve the second read of policy 721, uniform grant guidance policy regarding federal revenue sources due to substantive changes. The policy is linked within the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve policy 721?
Jenny will make that motion.
Defo second.
Motion by Jenny, second by Rachel. Any discussion? Hearing none, we can move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye. Sorry.
Ms. Seguin,
Aye.
Mr. Gierke,
Aye.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau.
Aye.
All right, policy 721 is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the second read of policy 807, crisis management policy due to substantive changes. Policy is also linked. Matt showing it on screen. Do I have a motion to approve policy 807?
Jenny will make
Amy
that
wants
motion.
to make the motion.
Motion by Amy,
Sue will second.
second by Sue. Any discussion on policy 807? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Mr. Gierke,
Aye.
Ms. Seguin,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau.
Aye.
Policy 807 is approved. And we'll move on to new business. I've got a couple of first and only read policies on the next item on the agenda. We need to approve the first and only read of policy 609, religion, and policy 610, field trips, due to non-substantive and legal reference changes. They're also linked within the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve first read of policy 609 and 610, please?
I'll make that motion. This is Corey.
I'll go ahead and second. So motion by Corey, second by Seguin. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Seguin,
Aye.
Mr. Gierke,
Aye.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson.
Aye.
Those policies are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the first read of policy 607, organization of grade levels due to substantive and legal reference changes. Matt walked this one through with us this afternoon or this evening in our work session, and it's also linked. Do I have a motion to approve policy 607?
Roser will motion.
Gerke will second.
Motion by Sue, second by Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Gearke,
Aye.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Segwin.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is to approve the first read of policy 608, instructional services, special education due to substantive and legal reference changes. Another one that Matt walked through with us this evening. It's also linked. Do we have a motion to approve the first read of policy 608?
Depot motion.
Corey will second.
Motion by Rachel, second by Corey. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Segwin,
Aye.
Mr. Gearke.
Aye.
All right, policy, the first read of policy 608 is approved. Last item on the agenda is to approve the revised staff development fund balance transfer resolution that Mary walked through with us this evening in our work session. Previously approved resolution with a bit of verbiage added to it that we walked through this afternoon. Do I have a motion to approve the revised staff development fund balance transfer resolution?
Jenny will make that motion.
And I'll go ahead and second. Motion by Jenny, second by Lisa. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Segwin,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Rosenau,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Ms. Deppa,
Aye.
Ms. Roser,
Aye.
Mr. Gearke.
Aye.
All right, resolution passes. That was the last item on the agenda. Thanks, everybody, for your time tonight. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Lisa, can you stay on, and Paul for a minute?
Sure.